Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let's take a look at using AirDrop to transfer files between Apple devices. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now there are many ways to transfer files between your Apple devices or from your Apple device to somebody else's. But for a while now the best is just to use AirDrop. AirDrop is a way to wirelessly transfer files and other information between Apple devices, and it has big advantages over any other method like file sharing or cloud services. So first, there's no setup for AirDrop. Unlike network file sharing, you don't need to establish which folders are shared and which aren't and set everybody up and everybody needs to be on the same network. Not at all. In fact, there are very few settings for AirDrop. On the Mac you go to System Settings and then you can go to General and then AirDrop and Handoff. And there's only one setting here, and that's to turn AirDrop off or set it to no one is allowed to AirDrop with you. Contacts only, which is the standard that allows anybody in your contacts, so their Apple ID is somewhere in a contact. That would include you with your own devices and presumably anybody else you really would want to share files with anyway. Or you can set it to everyone, which is useful for sharing with other people that may not be in your contacts, like people at school or at work. On the iPhone, similarly, you go into Settings and under Settings go to General and then there's AirDrop, and you have those same three options there. Note that recently Apple changed Everyone to Everyone for 10 minutes. So when you switch on Everyone it's only good for 10 minutes. This prevents you from getting unwanted requests from strangers when you're in a public place. Now when you want to send something, like say this file right here, you just need to share it. You can control click it or right click or two-finger click on a trackpad and then go to Share. Or you can use File and then Share there or the Share button. Any of those take you to the same place. You're going to of course want to send a copy in this case. We're not collaborating here. And then you can choose AirDrop. And then you're going to see nearby devices, like for instance my iPhone here. And it shows me the document that I'm going to share. And then I can simply select from the list here who to share it with. And then you can see at the other end there's a notification and I get to choose what to do with it. I'm just going to send this to Files and then choose where I want to save it. On an iPhone or iPad it's a similar thing. So you would choose a file. So I'm in the Files app here. I'll just tap and hold this file here. I'm going to select Share and then I'm going to select AirDrop. And then I see the other device there. I can select that and I'm going to get a notification that it's received. I have options right here so I can show it in the Finder or just open the file. Another way to do AirDrop is instead of using the Share menu you can simply create a new Finder window and go to AirDrop either using the item here in the left sidebar, or if you don't have that there you can just use Go and then AirDrop, and it shows you this interface here which has all of the other devices where AirDrop's enabled. So in this case there's my iPhone. I could simply drag and drop a file onto the device here and that would initiate AirDrop. Now reason number 2 you should be using AirDrop is it's fast. So here's how AirDrop works. It uses both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Bluetooth for discovery. So that's how it finds out there's another device nearby and it lists those. But when the transfer is done it's done over Wi-Fi. But not in the way you would expect. You see Macs, iPhones, and iPads have special Wi-Fi hardware that not only allows you to connect to a Wi-Fi network but also allows you to create these temporary Wi-Fi connections to other devices. So when you transfer something with AirDrop you're transferring directly from one device to another using the Wi-Fi hardware. Wi-Fi of course is how you would transfer anything else. If you were doing regular network file sharing, if you're doing something online, it's all over Wi-Fi, right? So this is a direct Wi-Fi connection between devices. So it's as fast, if not faster, than any other way to transfer files. Reason number 3 is how it works across all Apple devices. So this works for iPhone, iPad, and Mac, and it works between all of those devices. So to get a file from your iPhone, say, to your Mac, it's a really easy way to do that. Or if somebody else has an iPad and you've got an iPhone, you can use AirDrop to send them a photo, a file, or whatever. Now realize this means it doesn't require the Internet. Not at all. You could be somewhere where there's no Wi-Fi connection to the Internet. Say you're in a remote cabin somewhere. There's simply no Internet connection at all. But if you've got your iPhone and a friend has another iPhone, you can use AirDrop to transfer a file to them. You don't have to have some sort of device or a network or something between the two to do the transfer. It goes from one device to the other. And if you are on the same network, that's fine, but it doesn't use that network. So you don't need to be signed into the same Wi-Fi at all. So you could be in a situation where you've got Wi-Fi but somebody else doesn't, and you can use AirDrop. Or neither of you have Wi-Fi or are signed in to completely different networks. It doesn't matter. The network isn't being used. It's a direct transfer between devices. Now it's also secure. Being directly between the devices means there's no one in the middle that can intercept the data. It's encrypted anyway, which makes it even more secure. But not having some sort of network or network device between the two devices where the transfer is taking place makes it potentially more secure than any other way to do this. Now what I just demonstrated to you before was transferring between two devices for the same Apple ID. On my Mac here I'm using my demo account and that iPhone is using my demo account as well. So when I transferred, notice how it didn't ask for confirmation on the other end. It just transferred the file. That's because AirDrop's smart enough to know that you're doing a transfer between two devices owned by you. There's no need for you to confirm on the other end. However, in other cases you may be doing a transfer to somebody else. That's going to require not only you to select the file and then send it, but then them to accept the file. Here's one example of one way I use AirDrop is I use an app to record video that's not the camera app, and it saves the video into its own kind of data. Now I could attach a cable to my Mac and use the Finder to transfer that file. But I could also use AirDrop. I could simply select one of the videos here and then tap the share button, and then AirDrop is one of the options, and I can transfer this video file using AirDrop without having to connect to a cable or add the video file to Photos and have it sync over iCloud. So this works great to get files between your devices, but it's also an ideal way to get files from one of your devices to one of somebody else's devices. For instance, it's a great way to share photos with friends, not sending them a reduced quality version over text messaging or email, but actually sending them the original image or group of images without having to worry about bandwidth here because you're going directly between two devices. You can both have a very slow internet connection or limits on your bandwidth. It doesn't matter. You're going from one device to the other. You're not going through the internet. Another thing some people don't realize is AirDrop works for any file. So yes, you can do a numbers file like in this demo here, but it's not restricted to just Apple files. You can do text files. You can do zip files. You can do image files. Any kind of file that you want. And you can even do folders. I can select a folder here. I can use AirDrop and send this entire folder to the other person. But it also works with other types of data. So for instance, here I am in Contacts and I can share this contact over AirDrop to another person. So you can share your own contact or somebody else's. You can also select a photo or photos and share that with AirDrop as well. Here I can go and share an entire note with somebody else. I'll send a copy instead of collaborating, and I can use AirDrop to do that. You can also share websites. If I just use the regular sharing method there, choose AirDrop, then it will share it with that other device, and you can see it goes right to that page. So if you want to show somebody else who's nearby a web page, you could just use AirDrop. Now it doesn't seem like it was that long ago that AirDrop was new, but it's actually been around for more than a decade. One of the best places to see if your device is compatible with AirDrop is to look at the Wikipedia page for AirDrop. And you can see it goes back quite a ways. For instance, it started with macOS Lion. It started with iOS 7. Devices go all the way back to the iPhone 5 and to Macs from 2008. Note that one way that AirDrop is different than regular file sharing is you could technically have regular file sharing from anywhere in the world, right? You can do it over cloud services to any part of the world, or at work or at school. If the network extends across a large campus, you could use file sharing for any distance where the network is available. AirDrop is something where things have to be nearby, so within about 30 feet. Bluetooth range, in other words. So if you haven't been using AirDrop, maybe you're using traditional networking or maybe connecting a cable from your iPhone to your Mac to transfer files. Instead, try using AirDrop. It's by far the best way to do this kind of thing. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.